Hello friends, today I'm going to show you the Caro Kann Defense classical variations. This video will demonstrate you how to play against the Caro Kann Defense with the classical variation. So in Caro Kann Defense, as you all know, white starts with e4 and black replies with c6, and then white plays d4 and black plays d5. That is the main lines of Caro Kann defense. Here in this position, the main move is either knight c3 or knight d2, and both are classical and modern variations which usually transposes into knight c3. So let's play with knight c3, and where d takes e4 and knight takes e4. So here bishop b5 is the main move here. This was long considered to represent best play for both sides in the Caro Kann. White here usually continues with knight to g3, where bishop moves back to g6. Then h4 and h6 are the main lines, where white develops this other knight to f3, and black also continues on its development on to the knight d7. Most players play h5, attacking onto this light square bishop, which further retreats back to h6. The idea is this bishop would like to continue attacking onto this weak c2 pawn, but bishop d3 is are usually played where bishop takes d3 and queen takes d3. Although white's pawn has on h5, this one looks ready to attack, but it can prove to be a weakness in an endgame. Much of the Caro Kann's reputation as a solid defense stems from this variation. Blacks makes very few compromises in the pawn structure and plays a timely c6 and c5 to contest on to this d5 square. Variations with black castling onto the queen side gave the Caro Kann its reputation of being solid but somewhat boring. More popular recently are variations with black castling king side, or even leaving his king in the center. These variations can be sharp and dynamic. I'm going to show you a brilliancy from the whites attacking chances when the players castle on the opposite sides in the classical variations. So let's have a look at the game. This was played between Lev Milman and Joseph Fang uh, in Foxwoods Open 2005. So where white starts with e4 and black replies with e6, as I've told you, that's the Caro Kann defense, and the main line is d4, and which will be replied by d5. Knight to c3, where d takes e4 and knight takes e4. These are very standard classical variation main lines. So here bishop f5 was played, where knight goes to g3 and bishop retreats back to the to g6. h4 attacking onto this bishop, so h6 saving, making a space for this bishop. Here knight f3 and knight d7 was played, and then h5 attacking onto this bishop, and bishop retreats further back to h7. So here bishop d3 was played, where bishop takes d3 and queen takes d3, and then e6. Queen at e7 is also an option. C7 is also an option, but here at this in this game e6 was played. So white attacks with bishop f4 and then bishop f4 check, where white defends with c3 and bishop to e7. Bishop retreats back to e7. Here white has two options, either to castle king side or to the queen side. But since uh, white has already moved his the pawn further to h5, uh, castling onto the king side is a bit risky. So white castled queen side. It also makes a battery of rook and the queen to attack onto the d file. So here at this position, knight to g f6 has been played. uh, King moves further to b1. This is to avoid any activity on this diagonal. But here on this position, knight e5 was black castled. Black castled from king side, and then knight to e5 was played. So here black has two options. One is to either takes the queen to e5 and then try to make some attack, generate some attack from this a file. But in the game, c5 was played, where queen moves to f3 and attacked onto this b7 pawn. So white king queen moves to b6. But friends, instead of playing b6, I show you another line here where c can take d4, rook takes d4, and knight takes e5 with an idea of you capture my queen and I capture your queen, and then when you when white captures with this pawn, so it will have a disturbed pawn structure. So uh, bishop can take e5 and then queen to c8. Here on this position, rook goes to d1, double attacking onto this, double his rook onto the d file, and but then knight to d5 blocking this diagonal, sorry, file. But this will give white a slight advantage, and that is why queen to b6 was played. So here white played knight takes d7 and then knight takes d7, and now d5 was played. Instead of capturing, uh, pawn advances was preferred, where e takes d5. Here white has ignored, has not captured this pawn either by rook or by the queen, but instead he played knight to f5. And this was a very important move because it's not only attacking onto this pawn, is attacking on this pawn, the bishop is also attacking on this. White's queen can move to g3 and join the attack. So it was very important for the black to ignore this pawn for now and defend this king, his king side. So bishop f6 was played, where rook takes d5. Another great move because it was not only attacking onto this knight, is also attacking on this pawn as well. But here queen to e6 was played. uh, so it was very important for the queen to come onto the middle and start defending from the middle. Here white is sacrificing his bishop, where bishop takes h6, and you really don't want to capture here because then it will be a game over in very few minutes. So here knight e5 was played. The main point for playing knight to e5 is you can free your queen, so the queen can now move anywhere because queen was defending the knight at d7. The another point is you also need more material, first to block this line, and also something onto this, to guard this g6 square. Friends, I show you another sample line here. What if you do not play knight f e5 and you capture this bishop from, say, g takes h6? Then first, rook d6 can come in, threatening onto the queen. say queen goes to e8, then rook takes f6, and knight take f6, queen g3. Oops, sorry, queen g3 check, and as soon as the king moves, queen to g7 is going to be mate. So that is why knight e5 was played, and black has not captured this bishop. So here queen e4 was played, and then knight to c6, offering queen exchanges. This is very important, friends. You need to understand this concept, because any time you are under in tremendous attack from your opponent, you always try to exchange your pieces. That will slows down the severity of the threat, and this is what exactly black has offered queen exchanges, which has been of course denied by white. Queen f3 was played again, and then knight e5 was played, attacking onto the queen again. So queen e4 back, and knight to c6 again. So here black is kind of trying to either draw the game repeating the same moves, but then queen to g4 was played. And now this is very important move, because it's not only attacking onto this, it's a checkmate threat in few moves. But here queen has a black has a chance when the queen takes d5, and here bishop takes g7. So you cannot capture this, because then it will be game over in the next move. So friends, are a lot of threat black has to meet. First, there's a discovered a check coming in, which can be proved very very deadly. Second, knight to e7 for king and queen is another threat. So here first black played queen to d3 check, of course king to a1, move to protection, and then knight to e5. So now both of the threats has been met. If there is any, say for example, white moves his knight either onto g3 or to take f3 with a discovered check, so this knight uh, can capture this queen. And also as the queen black has moved his queen, so check to e7 for king, knight and queen will also not work. But so from this position white has played knight to e7 check, so king to h7, and then queen d6 check. Sacrificing his queen, and now you cannot save the checkmate, because say here f takes g6, and then h takes g6, and king takes g7, but then rook to h7 is checkmate. So friends, have you seen the white is down a queen and a rook and the bishop, yet has managed to checkmate. It was such a beautiful aspect of the game, and I show you where the match actually goes into the favor of the of white is the move number 18, where white has pushed the pawn d5. This will, and as soon as the black captured from the pawn e5, it means he has removed the defender, which was defending the f5 square, and that allows white to play knight h f5, and that was a very very crucial move of the game. And that basically, this move basically allow white to generate its start attacking onto this king side, wherever there were not many defenders available. So friends, let me know how you like this match, and have you understand the variation, the classical variation of the Caro Kann Defense. If you like it, please subscribe to my channel and give me your comments. Thank you. Bye bye.